All right. Hello and welcome to Plugging Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugging Along, we were inspired by the final days of the Anniversary Festival to modify the Festival Buddy plugin to help us know which fireworks to use for the Fireworks of Bree quest. We spent a lot of time working out how we would detect which fireworks were called for, and today I want to try to get some stuff drawn on the screen for that. So as always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. And in the meantime, let me go ahead and pull up that quest in the wiki. So, if you're not familiar with it, the LOTRO wiki is pretty neat. LOTRO wiki will get you there. It's lotro-wiki.com. And here, if we search for Fireworks of Bree, we're going to go ahead and not find it. Fireworks in Bree, of course. And here we can see the Fireworks in Bree quest, and that can refresh our memory of what's going on. So you must get 10 fireworks correct in a row, and the fireworks calls out things like launch a blue or launch anything but blue, that kind of thing. I feel like I'm just off center here. I'm going to move that around. Okay, I feel better about that. Oh, no. Guess I'll have to just rotate myself. Okay, so that is what is up with this quest. Is we want to automatically detect in chat which fireworks were called for, and then highlight that in some way. Tan in chat, and welcome Tan, says, still sad there isn't more in-game wiki integration. I think that would be very interesting. Now, you wouldn't be able to, with a plugin, launch the browser in the same way that, say, the LOTRO store, or maybe the LOTRO store is not a good example. The help button now is launching a window that contains within it a browser. And I believe there's enough restrictions on what you can do with a plugin that you wouldn't be able to go off board, as it were. You wouldn't be able to launch a browser. But what you could do is have a database in the game that has a link to the wiki. So at least you go to that, you copy, you paste in. But due to limitations, valid security limitations, plugins can't launch an external browser to an arbitrary page, sadly. And so, yeah, the game itself could do something like that, where this button could, there could be a button at the bottom that says wiki, and it allows you to look at pages on the wiki. But because the wiki isn't under SSG control, I could understand why they would feel hesitant to do something like that. For instance, I don't know if you noticed real fast, but there are advertisements being served on this page, and SSG has no control what those advertisements are. And so you could have a situation where someone presses question mark in the game, goes to the wiki in the game, and then is served some sort of questionable content that is not even a part of the wiki that they were going to see in the first place. So I could see how, because the wiki is a separate entity run by fans, controlled by fans, that's probably never going to be a thing. That being said, if you're not already familiar with it, I'm going to fire up the plugin compendium here, LOTRO plugin compendium, and I'm going to go ahead and install the LOTRO compendium with the LOTRO plugin compendium. So if I go ahead and go to add new plugin and search for compendium, the LOTRO compendium, we can go ahead and add this. And with our caret menu, system, plugin manager, remember, if you add a plugin while the game is running, hit that little green arrow to refresh what's available, and then we have the compendium. We can go ahead and load that. And it will, on first launch, remind you that you can also integrate this with More Map. I hear good things about More Maps. I've never gotten it going myself. And then when you launch Compendium, this first tab here is Quests. So if I'm looking for that Fireworks in Bree, I can go ahead and search Fireworks Space, and here's the 5 quests in the game that contain Fireworks Space, including, oh good, Fireworks in Bree. Hooray! And all of the information that is available about that quest can be found here. You can even add your own custom comments. I believe these are custom comments. Let's give it a try. This quest is great! Exclamation point. We'll go ahead and add that comment. Add another one. Aww. It's gone now. Frowny face, and add that. Oh, interesting. Pages. I've never used that feature. I just assumed you could do stuff. That's cool. Um, it might even be possible to edit these things. I don't know. I haven't tried that. And looks like you can. Oh, that's pretty. Sorry, I hadn't looked at that. So there's an alias here. Let's see. So if I wanted to add that, our friend in the 21st hall. Oh, that's so cool. So you can tag things with both their location and names. Really easy with this button. That's really nice. Lunar Water is the author of this plugin. Very nice. I don't know if this is one of the new features that they've added recently or if that goes back to a decade ago. But either way, you can do filters by faction level ranges and sort of thing. So a lot of the things you might be looking for in the wiki, like where do I pick up this quest, that might be answered here in the game, in the compendium. It has a whole bunch of that information. What it doesn't have is a bunch of the hyperlinking. So if I was looking for, Winston Pear Tree, I can't click Winston Pear Tree here and see all the quests that Winston Pear Tree does, like you can do in the wiki with all the advanced hyperlinking that they do. So it's not quite the same as the wiki, but it might serve that purpose. So this is all drawn from official data files, so it's likely to be as correct as the wiki for the things that it can show you. Well, Farathan, I'm not sure what you were trying to post there, but apparently Moobot was not a fan of it. Sorry, just glancing through chat here while I grab a drink of water. Wonder if I can mute myself on Twitch before I start talking. Funny thing is, I see part of the text and then... Oh, that's so funny. Oh! I think it saw multiple periods and assumed you had a URL there. Yes, if the question is about the daylight, yeah, as you can see, we are coming up on summer here in the Netherlands, and sunset here is well after 8 p.m. This time of year. And so I expect it's going to be down by the time we're done at 10 p.m., but not for long. All right. Let me know. Let me know if you had more questions there that got squelched there. I can't see anything after in the back of the R ... So Wimba aggressively got that, and and Chatty won't show it to me. Or will it? Oh, I can. I can pop up a new window. That's cool. Okay, so click on your name in Chatty. That pops up. Daylight, or is it a big TV / LED? No, our TV is slightly bigger than my main two monitors. Like each one of them, the TV is slightly bigger than one of those monitors. It's over to my right, and it's definitely not on. We don't use it for very much. That's so weird. What did it think you were posting? Okay, yeah, no. So the ... was an abbreviation. I think the /. I think the / it said, oh, that must be part of a URL. That's hilarious. So watch out for /. They're just going to get you into trouble with Moobot. All right, so yeah, Dan, you're welcome for that tour of the Compendium plugin. It's neat, and the author of that is the same person who made the LOTRO plugin compendium, which I use to quickly install the plugin, the LOTRO compendium. So good work there by Lunar Water. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and unload that though. And then, oh, that's interesting. Waypoint. Did Waypoint automatically load? Oh, interesting. That's a neat technique. Plugins can load and unload other plugins by name, so it's very possible for your plugin to say, hey, does this other plugin exist? And if so, go ahead and load that other plugin. I haven't seen it very often for this kind of integration, but I think that's a good use for it because as we saw, Compendium has a really cool feature where it can make use of the waypoint. DTracker will also activate certain things if it sees the waypoint plugin is available, but I never thought about launching the waypoint plugin if it's not already launched. So that's very interesting. Okay, fun. I'm going to go ahead and load up the Festival Buddy, which is the plugin that we are talking about. So we have reminded ourselves, oh yeah, Fireworks in Bree. That's the quest where the Fireworks announcer says something and you have to either pick a certain color or everything that is not that color. It's the slight bit of trickiness. So if you see the word blue in chat, you have to double check and say, oh, yes blue or no blue. And also the Fireworks control itself isn't the most colorblind friendly thing in the world. Fortunately, you can hover over each of the firework skills to remind yourself which color they are, but they're not in any particular order. Maybe alphabetical, but I don't think so. If we come over here to Anniversary in the Festival Buddy, and if we come on down to Fireworks and Bree, we're going to see its description here. But what we don't see are Fireworks and Bree. That is, of course, only available during the anniversary event itself, which is over and has been for most of a week. I think it ended last Wednesday, give or take, in the middle of the night. Maybe last Thursday. Okay, so a thing that we have not done yet is we have not made any commits to source control with the changes we've made so far. So I thought it might be a useful exercise just to remind ourselves, yes, we do want to use source control, to go ahead and do that at the beginning here. So I have started a to-do file, which I completely forgot to do last time. And it might be good to go ahead and make a README file as well. That can be really useful to collect together the things that I want to include in the release notes. So I'm going to go ahead and start committing things here. So we're going to commit those, README and to do. Chat logger. So we added a way to strip text. And then in the chat logger, we added some basic stuff to say, hey, we have found a firework announcement. We don't do anything with it, but we've found it. So I'm going to go ahead and commit most of this. One of these changes was to change how long a message stays on screen. And I'll talk about that in a moment, but we'll go ahead and stage that as well. In the main window, we have some notes here. They're just comments. So we're going to go ahead and, oh, right, of course, chat logger. So in our README, added code to chat logger to find fireworks announcements. To understand, I should say. We were already looking at fireworks announcements. And then in main, added comments to main about a new window. And then strings, we have two things. We have all the English language strings and a way to identify what they mean internally. Yes, red, no red, yes, blue, no blue, and so forth. We're going to go ahead and include all those. Added English fireworks strings and their meanings. Okay. So that's just a reminder of what we've done so far. And in our to-do file, we can go ahead and what are we trying to do today? Well, I would really like to get some stuff on the screen. So today, make a new window, make the background the hollow event skills UI. And that is, I have taken a screenshot of the event skills UI, but I've cut out the places for the actual skills themselves. And that's going to make it possible for us to lay it on top of the event skill in, 11 months time when this rolls back around and I'm like, oh yes, I made that thing. Okay, remember, say no to mouse interaction. want to remember to do that because we don't want to interrupt any or intercept any mouse clicking. We want that to go to the actual control that we're on top of. Make use of drag bar. Now, that was something I was curious about is, do we use drag bar here? I think the answer is probably not. I think all of it's done in-house. How are windows moved here? So that's a question I have. I like drag bar because it interacts with the normal control / unlock windows thing, and that means you're not going to accidentally move windows if you don't mean to. Oh, great question from Tan. Is this plugin in the wild, or is it still a work in progress? Well, the plugin itself is in the wild. LOTRO interface, if we go to lotrointerface.com, and then we search for Festival, we're going to find Festival Buddy by Galahad, who's done some other cool stuff as well, like the Hitbold plugin, I believe. So if we come in here to Festival Buddy does a lot by itself. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. I don't have to write a whole plugin. I just have to add a window to a plugin that's already all set up for the anniversary. And so that hopefully saves me a bunch of time. So this is some of the screenshots they were saying, where you can see which quests, which of your alts have completed for things like this is harvest math, or look at the barter options in case you don't want to run all the way back to the barterer, or if you're doing emotes, it'll have a shortcut window for the dancing or the whatever emotes. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff here. A downside of Festival Buddy is the last update was in 2014. And LOTRO festivals are like hobbits. They generally don't move very fast. But there have been some changes since then. And so while this isn't a change, I think, that has come in since 2014, it opens the door for me to start thinking about other possible improvements. There's been some comments, I think, down here that's like, hey, I'd like to add the Farmer's Fair quest with the Fat Mayor and etc. And so I think that's a great idea. And so this is sort of the first step because Farmer's Fair is coming up soon, and I think I'd like to be ready to hit the ground running. And this is really an excuse to defeat two objectives with one thing, which is I'm going to get this in there, I'm going to have a patch out in the wild, and then I'll be able to update it maybe with Farmer's Fair stuff. Fairland says, you have so many ideas. You should create a B4 plugin with all of them in one place. Like 1 gigabyte download, all functions included. I do have lots of ideas. Perhaps a blessing, perhaps a curse. I don't have a lot of spare time each week. One of the reasons I thought, oh man, I really kind of want to do this stream is actually so I definitely make some sort of progress on plugins every week, even if it's a crazy week, which this week has been. I know I'm going to get 2 hours where I get to at least interact with people, sure, but also some code will be written. It may not be correct or good code, but it has left my fingertips, and that's important. This week has been crazy. In our Dutch language class, they assign presentations for you to do, which, ironically, given the nature of how you are hearing this, I have not traditionally been comfortable doing public speaking, and specifically prepared words on a topic, right? Like, your topic is the Statue of Liberty. You need to talk for 3 minutes, and you can't look at any notes. That's the kind of public speaking that really I have not been very successful with in the past. Whereas if I'm speaking extemporaneously with no script about things that I know well, it's better. But all of those issues I have with public speaking, and now any new language that I'm learning, it's harder. And so those were Monday, and I did not get a lot of sleep Sunday evening, but it is done, and the rest of the class, I do not have to worry about doing any presentations, and that is lovely. That is the other thing. Little Redhead and I are in the same class, and we're both of the mindset of like, no matter how bad you think it's going to be, get it done fast. Because I do not want to be in that class like dreading, like, oh, it's coming. Oh no, only 4 weeks away, only 3 weeks away, only 2 weeks. No, that is not for me. As bad as it is, just first week if I can, second week if I have to, done, out of there. So, if any of you have to deal with that kind of thing, maybe that'll be a helpful resolution. Fairland says, then get some rest soon. I did. I slept very nicely last night. Thank you. Okay. So that was the question about is it a work in progress. So this part of it is a work in progress. Festival Buddy itself is an extant plugin, has been for years. It's just on my radar. Like I know it theoretically exists. I just haven't used it very much. Although Galahad also has the Rich plugin, which if you are a fan of the treasure hunt, I highly, highly recommend this. I'm not sure why it's not a part of the Festival Buddy, but it could be by all rights. It's kind of like if you had one of these for every festival, that would be Festival Buddy. And so it'll keep track of how long the current round has been running and how long you have left on the cooldown for the two relevant quests that get you more of the things, more cave claws or more pickaxes, I think it is. It'll also show you how much you have of each of them and give you shortcuts to those treasure chests that you can dig up. And I stand by this plugin. That it is fantastic, and it really changes the whole treasure chest from oh, that's cute, I think I'll go do other things, to oh no, I can really do this because I don't wander into the field and be like, oh, I wonder how long this has been going. It's oh, this thing tells me, or I don't come back to the computer. And if you haven't done the treasure hunt, that's really useful because if the current round's been going for 30 seconds, you have a really good chance of finding some good treasure. If the current round's been going for like 20 minutes, either the field is empty or people have been digging around. They've been using their cave claws or their dowsing gems to find the biggest treasure around them. So you're going to have these pockets, these voids where there's nothing good. And there's that one chest that's just on the outside of all that is good. And that's the very large treasure chest. And so just knowing how long the current round has been running by itself is delightful. It is great. By itself, that would be enough for me to use this plugin. The other stuff is gravy at that point. Highly recommended if you are a treasure hunt person. I'm still missing a treasure hunt mount on Affodil, and it bugs me because I go into my class race epic race and I see the treasure mounts and I'm like, the cave claw mast mount, which is, I believe, the rarest one. So that's the Rich plugin, same author, Galahad, highly recommended. And it says, ooh, need to try and get this. And I believe the next treasure event is coming up in the near future. If you do a LOTRO calendar search in Google, the first link is usually thread LOTRO event schedule, and you can walk on into that. I think the events keyword in LOTRO stream also pops that up. I'm going to try it. Events. Hey! It's the same link as what we're looking at right now. And Cordovan keeps this updated. And we can scroll on down. We're in the middle of May. We can see the VIP boost, event boost is coming up. And then after that is Buried Treasure next week, starting Wednesday. So this is an excellent time to be aware that there is a plugin for the treasure event. Okay. So make a new window, populate it with a background, and use the borders, make borders possible for each of the 4 locations, fireworks skill locations. I think if we can do any part of that today, I'm going to be really happy. So let's go ahead and finish logging, taking a snapshot here. So the to-do we've got, the readme we've got, awesome. And we're going to go ahead, actually, while I'm at it, while I'm committing files, let's go ahead. Nope, one thing at a time. Okay. Initial changes from the May 10 stream. Chat parsing, but no UI. We're going to go ahead and commit that. Then this change I actually like. And this is, I committed the new line, but not the old. Oops. Changed alert timeout from 6 seconds to 18. So the festival buddy will pop the fireworks text onto the screen. And that's something I really like. When the festival announcer says, now is the time for red, it'll pop that up on the screen. But it was disappearing after 6 seconds. And I thought to myself, well, wouldn't it be nice if it stayed the whole time that it is valid to launch this firework? So the firework takes 2 seconds to launch, and the firework color changes every 20 seconds. So I figured, leave it up for 18 seconds. If you can't see the text, don't try to launch a firework. All right, and finally, we're going to go ahead and save our workspace. This is Visual Studio Code, and you can save a workspace. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and save it in Galahad plugin, and this is the Galahad plugin workspace. Except I didn't choose the right thing to save, did I? So File, Save Workspace As. There we go. All right, so Galahad plugins.code-workspace. Perfect. We're going to go ahead and save that. Interesting. And the Lua extension didn't like that, but I'm okay with that. Fascinating. How do I get you to go away? That wasn't it. That one hasn't been up lately. I'm going to just squeeze that on down there. Okay. So back into Fork, we're going to go ahead and save these two files. So that is VS Code files. Okay. So our repository is clean now. We can easily back out any changes we make today. Awesome. So let's come back in here. We remember we had some comments here that if there's a special quest, the Bree Fireworks, active, we can do something. In this case, we could show the window that we're interested in, and otherwise we'll be hiding that window if it exists. And we can use the style of code that's already here as kind of a template for how we're going to do that. So what they do, if something, then create the window. All right, cool. Now, the real question is, how do they hide that later? But that's okay. They actually may not. That's a good question. Let's come on into, I'm going to say it's harvest math. And we're going to come into, but how does it know those are complete? Maybe it doesn't. Okay, so if I activate Thorin's Hall, Troves, and Trickery, and then I come back to Anniversary, okay, it does go away. Okay, so I forget how that works, but I'm going to want to make that go away. So, make window go away if quest dropdown changes. That might be handled in the quest dropdown itself, probably. Okay. But we can hold off on really integrating in the current style of the plugin until we have something worth messing with. We need a window. Let's go ahead and make a new file for this. So we're going to make a new file. We had something called mainwin. What else do we have? Oh, that's funny. It went away. Barter win. Looks like it's just thing and win. We can do that. All right, so new file. Fire. Oh, what is it called? What is it called? Oh, here it is. Event quick slot. Cool. So new file. Fireworks event quick slot win. There we go. All right, and the other question is, how does this plugin deal with windows? Are they using a class system where they're inheriting from LOTRO.window, or are they not class-based? And for that, let's come on into mainwin itself. Okay, so if we come on up here, we have a draw main win, and it itself has a variable, wMainWin parent equals LOTRO UI LOTRO, sorry, turbine UI LOTRO window. Okay, so that one is not class-based. But now I'm curious. If I search for the word class, let's see. that's pets. Hit bolt. Festival buddy. This class creates. Okay, drop down this class. So they're using the word class here, but not in the object-oriented LOTRO style. Interesting. Well, you know what? We can work with that. Interesting. Okay. That's just a way to go through and see how is this working. Okay, that does make me curious, though, about the other one. We saw alt win. We also saw barter win. Okay, now where is barter win happening? Go to references. All right, in the main, we have draw barter win. Oh, draw windows. That's a good place. Let's make a new function, draw, and we're going to call it fireworks event quick slot win. Now, we don't actually have one of those yet. So if we add it to here, function do that end, and B, we're going to need to import that, that file. I'm guessing most of the imports, yes, are handled here. So we have Windows. We're going to go ahead and import, and this is going to be Galahad plugins.festivalbuddy, and that is fireworks event quick slots win. That's a mouthful. Fairthun says, reading the height and width of a window. Can a plugin resize the integrated plugins window in LOTRO? Every time I open the plugin manager, it's so small. Shorter answer is no. The way plugins interact with this window is optionally two ways. A, you have a what is it called? A .plugin file within the plugins directory, and that is a valid HTML files with specific tags that LOTRO is looking for, specifically things like the name, the author, the version, maybe a package, maybe an image, some stuff like that. And that will cause the plugin to be included in this list. And it includes the package. I'm sorry, not the package. The configuration includes the file that should be loaded when the plugin is loaded. Okay, it is package. And this is a reference to a Lua file. And then when a plugin is being loaded, it can optionally provide a control that will be hosted within the options panel here in the plugin manager. But what I don't think you can do, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that we are able to get to this window and resize it. Now, I hesitate there because if a control knew the control that was hosting it, I don't think they do, but the control we give it could maybe say, oh, parent, you should get bigger. But I think the answer is no. So Agatha says it is resizable. It is absolutely true that it's resizable. What I think is not true is that I think it does not remember that when you log out and log in. I don't think this is part of your UI settings. So you could, I think if you saved a UI setting, for instance, this is probably not a part of it. So yeah, each time you load it up, it's kind of defaulted to this smallish location in the upper left. That's pretty consistent with what I remember seeing, I think. Like if I set it like this and then logged out, I do not think that would persist logging out and logging back in. Now, part of that may actually be intentional. Plugins are currently, and have always been kind of on the fringe of, the plugins are not officially supported by SSG. And to some extent, plugins make the customer support job harder, because if you say, oh, my computer did this weird thing, kind of the first question they're going to ask is, well, did you have any plugins loaded? Can you reproduce it without the plugins loaded, please? Because they don't have those plugins. or if they do, they might not have the same version, or there's nothing to say that you didn't manually modify a plugin. Guilty. And so the first step to reproducing an error in LOTRO is get rid of the plugins. And so it might be very conceivable that they were like, you know what, this thing is, no matter what you did, no matter what stuff you put in the options window here, when you log off and log back in, it's going back to a known good state. That could be part of it, or maybe whoever added the plugin manager window didn't add it to the stuff that gets saved to your UI profile. Oh, that's an interesting question. Lunawater points out that it's possible skinning has access to this window. That is a domain I have no knowledge of, and so that's an excellent question for people who do know. It wouldn't surprise me if the answer was no. Again, because plugins aren't really an officially supported thing, making the plugin manager skinnable may not have made the cut of anyone's to-do list. Anyway, so yes, you are not alone in seeing that this window kind of resets. But if you do resize it, it should stay that size for the rest of the session. So if I come in and load it back up, it's still that size then. So it's a once per login, character login, not every time the window opens. So that's good. Lino Water, welcome to chat. Sorry, I'm just grabbing another water here. Ironically, perhaps. I was talking about both the LOTRO plugin compendium and the LOTRO compendium earlier. I don't know if you were here for that, but kudos. It's great. And something I hadn't realized, let me load it back up here. It's cool. I didn't even think about loading other plugins that you can integrate with, so that's a cool feature. And B, how do I launch the compendium? Oh, there it is. B, I really love this in the notes that you can have. So fireworks and Bree. In the comments thing, I didn't realize one of the things that you could do for the comments was use this button to both get where you are, but also the location textually and the coordinates and the name of your target. And it's all beautiful. Love it. No notes. I assume that's a thing that you can do in all of these comments. Now, the one question I had is I didn't see an obvious way to edit or delete these notes. Oh, that's interesting. That's nice. I like that. If you click on a coordinate in these, then the compendium has figured out that is there. I'm very curious to see how that works under the covers, and pops up a little thing that you can click to do a /LOC. Water, I'm very interested. Is this a custom control entirely, or did you just slap a hidden one over where you thought the coordinates were? That's delightful. I don't have time to get into it, but it's great. Okay. Back to Festival Buddy. So I'm going to go ahead and unload things and reload things, and great, unable to resolve a package. We can see that I've gone and misspelled something. Let's go ahead and figure that out. So if I rename this, we're going to go ahead and get the official spelling of that. Coming back into main. Apparently, I had an extra S in there. All right. And load. Cool. So we have a new file, Fireworks Event Quick Slots Win. Now, eventually we might maybe genericize that a little bit. It doesn't have to be fireworks. It could be any events. Maybe we could have it be a custom size so you could say, oh, there's 5 of them. There's 1 of them. That's a later thing. For now, we're just going to incorporate the ability at all. Okay, and we have draw fireworks event quick slot win. Cool. Let's see what else we want to emulate here. So it looks like we have a collection of functions that are going to operate on a global variable. In fact, several global variables. That's interesting. Why are these all global? Are we referencing them elsewhere? Rathan says, Beaver and Linwater, 2 plugin people in 1 chat. How satisfying an evening can it be? Yeah, I'm very happy that there are people in America who are still technically during the business day who are able to tune in for at least part of the stream. That is nifty. I am streaming based on a European clock, which it is already 8:40 in the evening here, but that's kind of the nature of the globe. Okay, so we have a construction function. Now, unless we need all of these to be global variables, I'm very interested in making them local variables. They'll still be owned by the window, but you can see these squiggles are there because um, the system is confused as to why. Okay, list needs to be there or needs to be accessible in some way. Cool, but not all of these. Okay, I wonder if I can do a side by side. I'm still very new to Visual Studio Code, so I'm still discovering what is possible. Okay, so we want a window. If we're going to match the style that Festival Buddy is written in, we can see that they're doing a Hungarian notation kind of thing. Start with W for the window, and then quick slot win. Quick slot win. Oh, not win. So a thing I'm thinking ahead on is hopefully this can be a little bit more generic. I'm going to try not to use the word firework all over or at all. We'll see how far that goes. So turbine.ui.lotro.window. Awesome. And we now have a window. And the real question is we want to set a background. So quick slot. Now, we don't have a background, or do we? It is entirely possible that I've already added something to the resources. Let's take a look. I'm going to go ahead and open Revealing File Explorer. That sounds great. Okay. We see dance button, main icon, main win, message. Okay, so what I want it to be is event quick slot and then the event. So in my downloads folder, I have a Fireworks and Bree events quick slot. Now that's not a great name for what we're doing. Event quick slot underscore fireworks in Bree. I think that's going to be better for our purposes. Okay, and how do we load these things? We have an images dot something. Let's go on in. All right, in the images table, this is in images.lua, we have entries, and these are just paths, or in the case of internal images, you can also use image IDs. So we're going to go ahead and... Oh, nice. I think those are the backgrounds for things. Cool. We're going to go ahead and say, something very similar to the name, really. Not that name. Something very similar to events, quick slots, fireworks, and Bree. That'll be great. So we'll edit that a little bit, but event, quick slot, fireworks, Bree. Something like that. And the location of that is resource.dir concatenated with our actual file name. And that's good. Now, I'm very excited to try out Lunar Water's feature of previewing images within Visual Studio Code. What is this? Are you trying to tell me something? Oh, you're telling me the changes. Weird. Okay. Okay, so we have quick slots. We're going to go ahead, quick slot set background. And that's going to be images, and then event quick slot Fireworks of Bree. So if I hover over... All right, maybe I'm not up to date enough to get that previewing. Okay, I'll have to figure out how to make that happen because this is very cool. Won't do variables for preview? Oh no! Alright, that's a sad face on my part. Thanks for their, getting back to me on that. So, if I did something like this, w quick slot set background, that, would we see something? Well, I'm not seeing it, so I'm going to move on. So there are ways to get a preview, and we're going to come back to that later. Okay, so we have a set background. Now what we don't have is a size. I think it would be good to know how big this thing is. I saved off a PNG version of this, so it'd be a little bit easier to fire up in an MS Paint, really. So if we come on over to downloads, and then the Fireworks in Bree, I'm just going to right-click Edit, and in Windows, that should be MS Paint. Cool. Looks something like that. We can see this is 194 by 41. Cool. So W quick slot set size. What was it? 194 by 41. Awesome. Okay, so we have a set size. We don't have a set position yet. W quick slot set position. Oh, and I've just realized I've done a Turbine UI LOTRO window. We're going to need to nix that LOTRO. It needs to be a Turbine UI window because we do not want it to have all of the frills of a normal window. We're going to have our own custom background here. So we're going to set our initial position just like something like 400 by 400 just to stick it out in the middle of the window so we can play around with it. Maybe even more like 600. Jen in chat says hello. Hello. LunaWater says you can open that in Visual VS Code itself. Oh, that's a good point. So if we come into VS Code, and we click this, fascinating. What I don't know is how to get more details about it. So this TGA, I'm looking at it. I'm not seeing an obvious dimensions aspect to it, but it is nice to be able to preview it. I totally am on board with that. So, Jen, as you see, we are working in Lord of the Rings Online. We are working on the Festival Buddy plugin. Festival Buddy plugin is spiffing for for festivals, and I wanted to have a helper that shows out. Cool. I wanted to have a helper that can highlight which of the fireworks in the Fireworks of Bree quest is allowed. LunaWater is pointing out that with this TGA file open in the bottom right corner of the screen, we can see the 194 by 41. Awesome. Love it. So we have our width. We have our initial position. At some point, we'll want to look at the how this plugin does settings. That's not a right now problem. But we do want to remember W quick slots set mouse visible false. We do not want the mouse right now. Now that actually could be a problem for moving around, but that's for later. Hopefully, I'm hoping we can just use the drag bar library for that. Okay. Anything else? Any other inspiration that we're looking at? Oh, actually, yes. I am seeing or being reminded that so a lot of times you'll have a window that has a background in a sub-control. I don't know if that's necessary for what we're doing, but that's probably a good idea. Okay, now we have a draw fireworks event quick slots, but what we didn't have is a way to enable that. So where does Festival Buddy set the visibility of that? Awesome. W barter win parent set visible. That makes sense. But what I actually want to do is go back to that chat logger and go back to main, I believe it was. Here's the strings, don't need that. Quest strings, main win, there we go. In main win, we had a section here where we wanted to go ahead and say W quick slot, and what was it? Set visible, true. And otherwise, let's see. All right, so we're going to set the visibility based off of that. So we can do a simple quest name equals Bree fireworks, but with the localization. All right, so does it work? Well, we can come over to anniversary, fireworks and Bree, and we get the window that we are looking for. That's delightful. We can see the cutouts where the fireworks seal would go. And so, of course, the object is you just drag this on top of the normal one, and this one is just going to act as if it's drawing on the normal events quick slot. Cool. And then what happens if we go to something else? Oh, it goes away. Yes. That's so good. Oh, but it doesn't go away. Okay. So we'll still want to make it go away in the case of this drop down changing, but not having a quest. That's a later issue. Okay. So for now, we can make the main win go away. We have a chat logger. Awesome. So we can go ahead and make a function. Function. What are we going to call it? You know, I am thinking that sometimes you are. Well, am I thinking that? Yeah, I'm thinking that whatever we put here, we want it to time out after 20 seconds, or 18 seconds, really. Same as the clock, that we want to have some sort of display that shows how much time is left. And so I am thinking that whatever mechanism we have for the clock can also hide these later. So I was thinking, do we want to spin up a timer and have that timer hide these? But if we're already going to have a timer in a different section, maybe not. So this is a great time to go into the to-do file. Make firework highlights go away after 18 seconds. Now, don't have to worry about that again. Okay, so we have a draw. Now we need a highlight active firework, or allowed, I should say. Highlight allowed fireworks. And that's going to take a, no, well, I'm just going to call it allowed fireworks. And that we expect that to be a number. One of those numbers from the strings that we saw earlier. Okay, so fireworks type. If the fireworks type is not nil, then we can go ahead and pass it on. So we have highlight allowed fireworks, fireworks type. Awesome. Now, other thing we don't have is a way to trigger this. The people at SSG turned off the anniversary fireworks, even though I was working on a plugin with the anniversary fireworks in mind. So we're going to need a way to trick out the plugin to make it think that that has happened. Now, how do we do that? The answer is the code that's in this if string.find, the text, starts with fireworks announcer, then we know we've got a fireworks announcer message. But that means we can, if we pull out this code into a separate function, we can call that function both from here and from the options screen, which shows us a debug capability. Awesome. Let's do that. We have filter say, and after this we're going to say function handle fireworks announcer say. And what are we going to do with that? We need message. Awesome. Do we need anything else? Let's find out. We're going to go ahead and copy the code that was there. Oh, that should actually be C message that's coming in. Awesome. Do we need anything else? I'm going to You know, I'm going to go ahead and close those so we can see more stuff. All right. Oh, okay, raw text. Message equals C message. Oh. Yes, that was what was happening originally. Mine uses raw text. Okay. But where's raw text coming from? From there. Yeah, I don't see a way around that. Let's go ahead and pass that so we don't need to do it twice. Or do we? What are we doing here? We are doing a lookup with the raw text. Okay, that's fine. Are we doing anything with the C message? We are, but we don't need to because we're overriding the color here. Oh, in fact, we're matching that for this. We can match that with the raw text also because we're not looking for that. Okay, so the answer is we don't need the full C message after all. We can pass in a single raw text parameter. Great. And I'm using raw text here. That should really be non-formatted text, would be a longer, more precise name. It's the text without any color codes or any other HTML stuff, much like this. That's all been stripped out of there. And that makes it much easier to do pattern matching. Okay, so we have the raw text. Message is going ahead and stripping off that. Awesome. We do an alert with that message, and then fireworks type, we try to find that, and then we highlight allowed fireworks. Awesome. So that means we can go ahead and call handle fireworks announcer say with the raw text, get rid of all this, and most importantly, call this arbitrarily. Now, downside, there's no options UI yet. We're going to have to do that as well. But you know what? We can do that. Let's go ahead and do a quick search for options. Options, button, options. This is in message box. We don't need that. Okay, so that means, whoops, there's currently no options. I'm going to go ahead and make a new file called optionswin.lua. So, in options, we need a some sort of debug status or something. What if I called it in the past, I wonder? If I come into documents, plugin log, plugins, sure, opaque quest tracker. What have I called that? Well, probably dchecker. Globals, debug, show debug options. That's much more verbose. I love it. Okay, show debug options. Now I close that other file, but I'm going to have to remember how to make use of that. So there is a special variable called plugin that you have access to during your plugin startup. If I come on over here to main win, perhaps, oh, I'm sorry, I meant to open main. Let's go ahead and do a search for plugin dot. Oh, we have plugin dot unload. I am also looking for the options. All right, so we have a plugin dot get options panel. That is a function. If we provide a function, set it to not nil, then whatever gets returned to that, LOTRO will try to shove into the options window. Cool, let's do it. We're going to want to reopen that main win here. In main win, we can go ahead and do something very similar. Where we had the, sure, draw, fire. Oh, that was in main, I'm sorry. Not main win. We're going to come on in here to main. And you know what? Let's go ahead and draw options win. And that's not quite right. It's really a control that's going to be hosted in the options window. But for simplicity's sake, we're going to go ahead and do that. Now we need that function. And for that, we need to import this file. So we're going to go ahead and import and it's going to look the same. Galu had plugins, festival buddy, and then what do we call that? Options win. Cool. You know, the pedantic in me sees this as festival buddy, and now it wants to make a festivity buddy that's just concerned with the instances in the festivals. Boss from the vaults and that kind of thing. Did you get festivity tokens from those, not festival tokens? It's okay. Sometimes you tell jokes just for you. So we have a draw options win function. Very simply, right now there are no options. I'm going to assume, for the purposes of what I'm doing here, that we will show no options or we will show debug options. Eventually there could be options, and so this would need to discriminate and only show some of them. But for now, if show debug options, I should say if not that, then return end. Cool. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and do some stuff. Now, we can kind of be inspired by what's going on here. We have plugin get option panel equals a thing. Cool. So plugin dot get options panel equals function, and that function will return something. So options, in fact, we can do local options equals turbine.ui.control. And then, you know what? We can just do options set back color, and that's a turbine.ui.color dot something bisque. That's a color. Ugh. No, it's fine. I'll stand by my choices. And there we go. Let's give that a try. All right, we obviously have a syntax error. Awesome. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. We have unexpected symbol near that. Of course, I used a tilde to do not instead of the word not. Oh, I'm used to using tilde equals for not equals. That was wrong. Okay, so we had said, let's put a blank options window in here, and we can see that it is here because this control is the one that we provided. So instead of that default text of saying this plugin has no options, it says, oh, it does have an options. It's bisque. Okay, we're going to want to head and maybe make that bigger. Options, set height. We'll go ahead and, I don't know, say 300. That seems like a good height. So bring it back in. Yeah, that's a lot of bisque. Awesome. So what are we going to put on here? These, by definition, are debug options. So I'm not worrying about language. I'm not worried about readability. These are kind of for my eyes only. So what we want is we want to be able to trigger, well, first of all, any fireworks would be nice. But then it'd be nice to be able to trigger any of these. Red yes, red no, green yes, green no, blue yes, blue no, yellow yes, yellow no. If we get that working, I am going to be just tickled pink, so satisfied. I will spend longer than I should just poking the buttons and seeing the UI change. This I can guarantee. But in the meantime, that means we could probably do with just some buttons, right, and some labels. So let's go ahead and start making buttons and labels. Oh, if we were good, we'd maybe make a helper function for this. Let's make the first one, see what's going to go into there, and then probably make a helper function for this. Cool. Local red yes button equals, and that's going to be a turbine.ui.lotro.button, and that'll make it skinned with that nice blue, default blue color. And we can do red yes no button, set text, and that would be red yes. In fact, we're going to assume that there are going to be some labels. So like red, yes, no, blue, yes, no. So we'll just do like X, like just push this button. In fact, like, I don't know. Click me would basically be it. Okay. And then red, yes, no button. We're going to go ahead and say click equals, and we're not calling it, we're accessing the memory variable. That's going to be an anonymous function, and that's going to be a sender and args. And in that function, we're going to do whatever. In this case, we have a function, highlight allowed fireworks, awesome. And we want it to be red yes. Red yes. Awesome. End. So that's our anonymous function to pass on red yes to the fireworks window. Fun. What we need now, red yes no, set size, really more like set width. And it does not need to be very wide. Let's just start with like 30 and see what happens. And red yes a button, we want to go ahead and set location, position. And let's just start with that being, I don't know, 50 down, 50 over, and see what that's like. But most important thing, I try to say this every time because I forget it so easily. We need to parent this object. Red yes no button, we need to set parent to something that is inherently, by inheritance or by containment, really, a top-level control. So we're going to set the parent to options. Options is a control, so it by itself, by default, won't be drawn, but it's going to be hosted in the plugin manager window, which is a top-level control. Perfect. Awesome, we have a button, and if we click it, nothing really happens. I should have added a little helper here. We're going to do a turbine.shell.write line, and we're going to go ahead and say highlight. And we'll even go ahead and allowed fireworks. We'll append that there. And that'll tell us that we are seeing a thing. And as we get more buttons, we'll see more things. Okay, so options, click. We can see in the standard output, highlight 1. Perfect. Okay, so if I wanted to extract out the button creation into a function, I would still need to know the name. No, I wouldn't need to know the name. I would need to know the value being sent, and that's here. And I would need to know the row and column, and that'll tell me the positions here. So function draw fireworks button. So that is the fireworks value. Okay, what would that look like? Let's go ahead and instead of red yes button, I'm going to strip that off by just copying that into Sublime Text, selecting all the red yes button, and just replacing it with button. That's going to read a little nicer. Cool. And that goes away. So we're going to set a parent. Oh, I need a parent, of course. So we have a new button, setting the parent, setting the text, doesn't need to change. The click, the function, we can instead of passing a hard-coded value, now we're just going to pass the value for this button. We don't care what it is, pass it down through. Oh, but we need row and column. And so position, 50 over, sounds good, but what we really want is, well, first of all, our row and column going to be 1-based or 0-based? Well, everything in Lua seems to be 1-based. So we'll make a note here that says row and column start at 1. So we have the first column, the second column. Great. And so we can go ahead and say 50 times column for how far over it is. So that's going to be 50 or 100. And that's probably too much. In fact, if we have a local here, local column width equals, let's call it 50 just to start. We also have a local column left margin equals 50. And then we can do the same thing. A local column top margin equals 50. And local column height equals 50. And with that, we can go ahead and say column left margin plus, and then column -1 times column width. We can do the same thing for the height as well. We can do column top margin, and we can add in the row minus 1 times the row height. I've gone and foolishly called them column top margin instead of row and row top margin and row height. Okay, is this overkill? A little bit, but I feel like instead of having 50, we now have a number where we know where it's coming from, and it's going to be kind of easy to tweak these things visually. So I'm fine with it. Okay, so that means we should be able to replace this red yes button, or maybe not replace it, but let's go ahead and make another one, draw fireworks button, and that's going to be parented by options. It's going to have a value of red no, and we're going to set that at column 1. I really did row and column that way? Let's see. Yeah, that's not right. Column, and then row. What was I thinking? All right, so column. We know this is a column 2 and row 1. Kind of arbitrary, but I do prefer x-coordinate horizontal related things first, and then y-coordinate things second, whatever they may be. So you have width, height, or x, y. So in this case, the column is how far left to right it is, and so I like that being first. As long as you're consistent, doesn't really matter what you. That's the important thing. Consistency first, and then if it coincides with what I want you to do, then even better. Okay, so yeah, that looks good. Let's give it a try. See what happens. So coming in here to options, we can see we have 2 buttons. Great. Click one, we get 1. Click another, we get 2. Fun. That means we should be able to draw a red yes at 1, 1. Get rid of all of this, and see the same effect. Awesome. I love deleting code and seeing nothing changing. Okay, so all of that's working great. And that means with very little effort, we could come in here. Let's pull off the string window. Slide it on over to the right here. And we are going to substitute in green yes and green no. Blue yes and blue no. And I'm just doing a quick copy paste here because I'm feeling a little bit lazy. You can always, retype these things. It's fine. I'm not going to judge you. But I need my wrists to be happy with me. All right, so 1 over and 2 over, and then these are 2, these are 3, these are 4. And same thing, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That actually is fine. And so what does that get us? If we load our options back up, cool, we have those. Now it'll be nice to have some labels in here. It'll also be nice to get rid of this, what do we call it, bisque? Yeah. So 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Awesome, our powers of 2 values here. Arbitrary though they are quite pleasing to see come out in order. All right, so bisque. I'm gonna say no. Do we have like a navy? Great. Really just something to show that there is something there. It's not just like a default background. Oh, that's lighter than I was hoping for. Okay, well, we're going to take advantage of the fact that this LOTRO API extension, highly recommended. You can find it in the extension marketplace. LOTRO API, it's got the ring, it's got the Lua, it's great. And in theory, I should be able to interact with this dialog. Yes. And we can just go ahead and make this darker. Lovely. Save that. And that saves me from having to manually fiddle with the values here. Now, we don't have to set a background at all. I like setting a background, especially when I'm first developing, just to kind of prove myself that the control exists at all. But we could, in fact, just comment out that background here. Go ahead and reload. And now we can't tell how big the background actually is. It could end just below this button. It could go all the way down to the bottom of this area. We don't know. All right, so let's go ahead and do some labels. Row label. Actually, let's do column label. Let's see. Yes equals. That's just going to be a turbine.ui.label. And it's going to be parented, set parent, to options. And then we want to go ahead and set the text to be yes. Now we can also go ahead and set its position. Now we know that the set position, we know that these things are starting at 50-50. So if we know it's 50 over, but only, let's say 20 down, maybe 30, let's be generous, then that probably is about where we want it. And we can do the same thing with each of these. Now, again, maybe a function would come into play here. So let's do the first one before we get ahead of ourselves. Make sure we like how that looks. Yes. Now, we might say 50 plus, 5 or so. Get an artificial centering going on here. Okay. 10 would have been better. Awesome. Now, the label control could have some sort of centering type thing. Not sure. So that would be a thing to check the IntelliSense with. Alignment. Set text alignment. Great. What are the options? I don't remember. And in cases where the IntelliSense doesn't have that information, we can always come on back to the LOTRO API. This is the downloadable version that I have here. And we can come on in to label, and we can find that set text alignment. But we do know that's going to be a number. So there might be a content alignment. Let's see. Turbine UI content alignment. Perfect. So if we want middle center, we can come on back in. Turbine.ui.content alignment. And we can do middle center. Now, in order to take advantage of that, we might want to make sure that this column label, that the width of it, set width, is the same as the width of that button. Well, that didn't work. Or did it? All right, let's see which of these new additions caused my label to just go spinning off into the void. All right, we've got that. Let's see about that set width. Still there. Huh. How did I zoom out and why? Huh. Quite odd. And set text alignment. Well, that is fascinating. Now, a way to kind of debug this is, hey, how about we set a background color on that column label, yes, set back color, and that's just a turbine.ui.color, and we can do we're going to stick away from bisque this time, but how about corn silk? That sounds lovely. Oh, it's the same color. Okay, so that is a thing that we can notice here, is that that has a certain look to it. I'm curious what it was before we set width to 30. Oh, it was wider. Okay. Also the height. In fact, we can go ahead and set the size. And we're going to set that to 30-20 maybe. Now, it doesn't really matter if it overlaps another control, but, curiosity. Interesting. So I said 30 wide, and yet it is obviously different than the 30 wide of the button. Labels are their own funny little beasts. What happens if I set that size to 50? All right, that's too wide. Okay, so the other thing was that set text alignment. Oh, you know what? Cornsilk is obscuring the fact that we have text. So let's go ahead and see if we can't pick something out of the not white category here. Azure? Nope. Dark orange, dark olive green. That's perfect. Well, perfect's an overstatement, but we can see the thing. Great. Okay, the other thing I want to do is undo the set text alignment. I think I see what the problem was. We hadn't set the height, and so I think the yes was just being perfectly underneath that button because the default height of the label control was well past that button. So this is one of my favorite tricks for handling layouts, is just give things a background color. Give everything a different background color and get a sense of where things are, right? Like, I did not realize that label default height was whatever, 80 or something. Okay, but we can see that middle alignment is doing great now that we know about it. So let's go ahead and see, can we extract out, thank you strings, can we extract out a function? Is it worth doing so? Yeah, maybe. I love extraction. All right, function, draw fireworks label. And so we have the parent, we have the text, and we have the column and the row, same as before. Okay, so what's the same, what's different? Well, we have, same problem actually as before. I want to anonymize this a little bit. And so anywhere it said column label yes, I'm just going to call it label. It's great. And if I pull that out into a different file, in this case Sublime Text, I can freely use multi-select and not worry that I'm doing something I'm not intending to. But we can see we do need to change this to parent instead of options. And then instead of yes, we have text. And then position. Well, we know that we want the column kind of the same thing, actually. In fact, these locals here, let's bring them on up into the file level. So we can go ahead and say that this is column left margin plus column -1 times column width. Same basic logic, in fact. For the row, this is where it gets a little bit different because we want the row top margin row top margin plus row -1. Oh, you know, that column width, is that right? Maybe. We're going to play around with this. I've arbitrarily enabled myself to do labels anywhere, and I really just need it on the top and the left. I think that I'm going to regret my choices here. That's okay. Row height. Let's just see what happens when we do that. And if we do a draw fireworks label, and again, that's just options, that's yes, and that's how many over? That's 1 over, and that's actually 0 down. Oh, of course, that was going to be no. All right. So our no is in the wrong column because I forgot about what I was doing. Oh. Okay. It looks like I had a control minus, and that made the UI go wonky. All right, so no is too far down. Great. So if we come in here, what were we trying to do? A position of 50, 30. So what we really want is row top margin plus that times row height. 50. There we go. So let's substitute in 30 here for a moment. And let's see, that was position of 50. Well, the position is working. Well, that is fascinating. What am I doing wrong? Possibly several things. All right, let's go back to a row of 0 just to kind of check our assumptions. Oh, that's actually quite nice. Cool. Well, in that case, maybe we can go ahead and draw a yes label here. In column 1 and be done with this manual creation of things. All right. Sometimes I wish I had a renderer that would just show me what a window would look like if it were being drawn by the default LOTRO, but not have to go all the way into LOTRO to see it be drawn. But that's a complicated endeavor. And pressing unload all and reload isn't that hard. All right, let's go ahead and draw some more labels. See if we can get this to work. And this will actually be column 0, row 1, and that'll be red. Awesome. Let's see what happens if we do green, blue, and yellow. We'll go ahead and do 1, 2, 2, 3, and 4. Well, that's hilariously not quite what I was looking for, but it does suggest that the height thing, if we do a row height of 30 instead, I think everything will be great. That yellow is, of course, a problem. So what we really want is the column left margin. We want to knock that up to, say, 75. And then check that out. Oh, well, that didn't do great at all. Oh, I think I saved it when it was still 750. Yeah, it was way off the edge there. Okay, and then, I could just ignore the yellow thing. It's kind of funny. But okay, we'll make the fireworks label just a little bit bigger. Perfect. Or at least perfect enough for my purposes. Okay. So we are all set. We have created a debug capability to pretend as if the fireworks announcer was still active in Breeland. Breetown, I should say. And that's important for two reasons. One, sometimes it is not the anniversary festival. And two, half the time, roughly, the fireworks announcer isn't even doing their thing. Now, I would say roughly because if you haven't looked into it, time in LOTRO is, I think, not quite evenly divided. So if we search for LOTRO time, not timeline, Google, you were wrong. There's a great LOTRO wiki breakdown of the time of day, and we can see that daytime is allocated 1 hour and 42 minutes of real clock time, and nighttime is allocated 1 hour and 23 minutes of real clock time. And together it's whatever that adds up to. 2 hours and 10 minutes? No. Hang on a sec. 42 plus 23. Okay, so that's an extra hour. 3 hours and 5 minutes. That makes sense. So for every roughly 3 hour period, slightly more of it will be daytime, slightly less of it will be nighttime, divided up into these chunks. Little Redhead says, sometimes it's not the anniversary festival, harshing my mellow man. Yes, on the plus side, it is often a festival. just not the festival I'm writing a plugin for. So yes, if it's not nighttime, which is a little less than half of the 3 hours every 3 hours. So if you log on and it's like, oh, it's morning, well, you do know that you have an hour and 4 minutes of clock time before it will be nighttime in the game. Some of us can hang around that long, sometimes not. And remember, this is different for every server you log into, because I believe it kind of just resets start of day when a server is rebooted for maintenance and that kind of thing. And they don't turn them all on at the same time. So every server is going to have a slightly different version of what's the game time of day like. So if you do play on multiple servers and you log on and it's not nighttime on one of them, it very well might be on one of the other ones. So that can be a thing you can do. Bounce, check. But for plugin development, we don't need to care whether it's nighttime or not. We just build a debug capability that says, assuming we saw the festival announcer say the thing, what next? And here we are. We can do that. So that's awesome. In fact, we can go ahead and save, or I should say take a snapshot of that. Let me go ahead and close some things. I have a couple windows open here. And let's see. A thing I want to do is in this options window, I want to go ahead and by default have show debug options equals false. And what that would look like then is if you loaded this plugin manager without that, you go to options and hey, there are no options available for this. Agartha says in chat, Titan Bar seems to get it right. Yes, Titan Bar is great at A, knowing what time it is in the game, and B, how long it is until the next segment of time. What it doesn't do, that I sometimes wish it would do, is tell me this whole schedule. Basically, like, hey, it's currently noon, and in 5 minutes it'll be afternoon. What I would really like to know is also, when does nighttime start? When's the next thing? And that makes me think maybe I should make a patch for that plugin or a code suggestion for that plugin. Because that's kind of a big thing. Is like, when is it next going to be nighttime and when is it next going to be daytime? I'm going to make a note. Titan Bar. In game time. Tell me if it's day, when is how long until night? And vice versa. That's the other thing. Great point, Little Redhead, that I forget. Fairthon says Titan Bar does this. So now I'm curious, are we talking at odds? Maybe there's a thing that Titan Bar does that I don't know about. So let me go ahead and pull up my plugin compendium. Oh, yes. So what Little Redhead's saying there, I totally agree. I can never remember if gloaming is day or night. I can never remember if dusk counts as day or night. And foredawn sure sounds like dawn, but it's not. So let me go ahead and add in Titan Bar. If you're not familiar with Titan Bar, it's neat. I like it. And there we go. Remember, if you add a plugin, hit that green arrow button. Let's go ahead and load in Titan Bar. And then on Titan Bar, let's make sure that the day and night time is here. And so what I want, all right, right click for options. Show next time, awesome. What I would like is, it says it's morning, 2 minutes until noon. Great. Right underneath that, or maybe if you hover over it, I would like it to say, therefore, you have 47, 37, 45, 46 minutes until it is nighttime. And that would actually cover the other problem that I'm talking about, which is, well, if the next thing is nighttime, this must be daytime. If the next thing is day, this must be night, right? It would tell you both of those things together. Rathan says, in German's Titan Bar, it gets all the times of day right. I'm not saying it doesn't. Rathan, what, when you say it gets it right, do you mean... Oh, I guess the icon itself is telling me if it's day or night. That is true. So, yes, I guess if I'm looking at the icon and I remember that that's telling me something cool, I can use that. But yeah, how long until the thing? As Agartha says, Firefly quests in Midsummer, you get directed in Minas Tirith to go capture some fireflies all over, but they only appear at night, like you do. And so, yeah, things like that. I was thinking specifically for anniversary, you can only do the fireworks in Bree during nighttime, and you can do the announcement for the hobbits of the fireworks during the day. So there's always something you can do, just only half the time the thing that I care about. Okay, cool. Um, yeah, Little Red Head says, so does that icon change to indicate day or night? I think the theory is yes. Certainly the one in your radar does. And so now I'm wondering if I just never notice it, and it's trying to tell me day or night this whole time. I could still use with how much until the next one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize that, minimize this. And yeah, show debug options equals false. So by default, I want this to have nothing, and that's what we've got. And then in our case, we'll just go ahead and yes, we want to show that. Cool. But I'm only going to commit the no into our source control repository. So show debug options equals false. Yes, please take that and that first blank line. And then go ahead and take the rest of this. And don't take show debug options equals true. That's just for us. It's our secret. Awesome. So we've got options win. So we have add. I got ahead of myself. Options win does nothing without the rest of it. So let's go ahead and added initial fireworks UI. Wow, we've done a lot. Isle says, what is this? Great question. So this is the official LOTRO, or Lord of the Rings online stream, where much of the time you will see people playing the Lord of the Rings online game. But the focus of Plugging Along, though, is the plugins that you can use, little small programs that add on to the capabilities and features of Lord of the Rings Online. Those plugins are written in Lua, a programming language that is pretty straightforward to learn and pretty understandable to see what's going on if you're at all familiar with programming. If you're not, maybe it's still possible to find interesting things here. And what we're doing today is there's an existing plugin called Festival Buddy, and I am trying to add the capability for the Fireworks and Bree quest, where it will go ahead and highlight the appropriate skills so that I don't have to remember which one of those three is yellow, for instance, or green. Seems to be a little earthquake here on the 21st hole. Fun. Okay, and as part of writing code to do these things, I am trying to practice good habits where I commit my changes to source control regularly with notes about what's that doing. And source control is a way of saying we're taking snapshots of things, which means we can easily undo the changes that we're doing. So that's what's going on. Thanks for asking. Stick around if any of that sounds interesting, and if it doesn't, that's totally fine. I respect it. This is a niche topic. All right, so we had some changes to the README file. Don't worry, I'm not worried about that. All right, added the initial fireworks UI. That's the fireworks event quick slot win. Anything else? Well, we'll go ahead and draw that. Why not? And we need to import it. Fairthan says, calling back to our... Oh, Isle, you are welcome for the explanation. Fairthan says, in German, the day-night times have different terms, calling back to our discussion of time of day. Therefore, it's easy to see which time of day it is, besides the icon. Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. Like, if you see Nacht involved in pretty much everything, Vornacht, Nanacht, Nachtminnen, something like that, if the word night appears pretty much consistently throughout all of these, or Dach for all of the ones in here, that would definitely work. In the English versions, Gloaming and Fordon especially drive me to distraction. As do Dusk and Dawn. Like, surely if dawn counts as part of the day, does dusk count as part of the night? I would think so. The English terms baffle me, and I think I would get them into my head better if I didn't have to come to the wiki to verify. If I could just hover over Titan Bar and it said, oh, whatever. Now, thanks for helping me realize that there is an icon there. I knew there was one on the radar, and so that's good. But I guess the real thing is, for me, because the icon is the current one, if I'm in dusk and it says gloaming is next, I still don't know whether that's day or night. I don't know what gloaming is. Gloaming sounds gloomy, but I don't think the two are related. So that's where I think I'm very tempted to tackle that soon. Okay, so images, we need that. Chat logger, we don't need the chat logger yet. So we have some option stuff we don't care about. We have whether or not the quick slot is visible. Don't care about that yet. No, we'll do that. Okay, so add an initial fireworks UI. It activates when quest is chosen. Now remember, it doesn't deactivate if no other quest is chosen. That's okay. So we're going to commit those changes, come back in to the chat logger, and say added debug capability. And that was this extraction of the code into a function that could be called from the options. And we have an options window, awesome. And in the options window, everything except the show debug options equals true. We don't want that. But everything else, which means that none of this should happen because we bail out at the first opportunity. All right, add a debug capability. Great. And so the state of my repository a lot of the times is just the only thing there is a show debug options equals true that is not committed. And that's perfect. That's a normal state of being for me. I'm going to go ahead and push out those changes. I feel uncomfortable leaving them just on my machine. Great. Okay. All right, so we've committed some changes. We made some changes. We committed them. Had some discussions about time and had some questions in the chat. Awesome. Well, just leaning over here to get some more water. We're really close to both my official end time and also getting something on the screen. So I'm going to try and do a little bit more. So we need to be able to draw a border around each of these 4 locations. And a thing for me to think about is we already have a border. I have a border that is meant to go slightly outside the control and a border that's meant to go exactly in the control. This could even be an option that we do. But for now, I decided I really liked the 34 by 34 version. So let's go ahead and bring that in. And let's go ahead and rename it Event Quick Slots Fireworks in Bree. You know what? I don't even think I need that. I'm just going to call it skill border with an underscore of 34 by 34. I think that's fine. It's I mean, it doesn't even have to be used for skills. It could be any border, but we'll go ahead and keep it as skill border for right now. In images, we're going to go ahead and pull in a variable for that, skill border. And that's going to be a resource dir concatenated with skill border that. Now, inherent in the name, we can see that we're expecting it to be a 34 by 34 control. Awesome. And we're done with options. That's great. We're done with the chat logger. Cool, we can close that down. And I don't even think we need main right now. Awesome. So, handle allowed fireworks. Well, we need those border controls. No, that does not sound good at all. We need the controls that are going to host the borders for each of these skills. And for now, I'm just going to create 4 of them. But I could easily see if there are event controls for other things in other festivals, I could easily see the desire to have a flexible number, a background for a size 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing. And then that would be part of the constructor is, hey, you are a window for however many. And then we'd only need that many controls. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and do border 1 equals turbine.ui.control. And remember to parent your border. Oh, and remember, wait, we can make this. Oh, we can't make it a local, do we? Okay. It's not going to be a local border because we're going to be activating and deactivating it. So we're going to set parent to W quick slot. We're going to go ahead and set the size to 34 by 34. And a border, set background. We're going to set that to images, and that's going to be border. Skill border. Excellent. Position. This one's a little tricky. Because I don't know where it's going to go. So for this, let me go ahead and open up this original file that I had. So that is going to be event.quickslots.xcf. This is a file saved with the GNU image manipulation program, abbreviated to GIMP, or possibly GIMP. I mean, I guess it's kind of like GIF or GIF, right? If you say GIF, you probably say GIMP. And if you say GIF, you probably say GIMP. So, you do you. Okay, so we can see what a border would look like here. That's the 34 border, that's the 32 border. And that's what it would look like with each of the fireworks in place. And so for the 34 border, what we're looking for, in fact, 34 border 2, let's go ahead and duplicate that. And we'll call that one 1, but that one needs to come on over here. Awesome. Just trying to figure out where it's going to go. And we're going to duplicate this. Come on over to 3. And we'll go ahead and duplicate another one. And that comes on over here. So that's actually what it would look like if the fireworks announcer said, I'm done, I don't care. I want to go ahead and delete that background layer. I think I don't need that. And so this is all of the borders together, and that can tell us where we're going to position these things. So in this program, if you do a selection, you can start at the upper left and come on down here, and we can see that is 28 by 4. Therefore, something can come over 28 pixels and down 4 pixels and be where we want it to be. W border 1, set position. And that was, I forget, but it is 28 by 4. Okay, 28, 4. Now, for right now, I'm actually going to set it to visible. Actually, I don't think I need to. But I do want to go ahead and remember to W border 1, set mouse visible to false. None of this should be clickable. Okay, so we have the skill border. And we can go ahead and see, does that work? Let's come back into the game. Here, there's a game here. It's great. And let's pop back open the Fireworks of Bree. Oh, cool. We have a border. It's looking pretty good. And so, same thing, right? We want to do that same thing. And this is where a function would be kind of nice. But I'm going to come on in. And everywhere it says border 1, I'm going to go ahead and change that to border 2. And that'll let me easily spin off another one of these. And same thing, we want a new position. And so for this, we can just go ahead and stretch this up. They're all going to be 4 pixels down, but this one's going to be 63 pixels over. Now, we probably could have guessed that 63 minus the one between them, minus 28, that's that 34. We already knew it was 34 over from the previous one, plus 1. In fact, you know what? Yes. So if we do a local border width equals 34, and if we do a local left margin equals, what was it, 28, then we can quite easily say left margin plus border width times, in fact, 0, right? And we could do the same thing with 4. We could say that's local top margin equals 4. Give names to things instead of just having magic numbers there. In fact, we could do the same thing where we have the local border height equals 34. And we can do the same thing, set size, border width, border height. And this to me looks a lot nicer. Here the only thing we're going to swap out is that 0. So let's bring this back down. Oh, it should be border width plus 1 to account for that extra margin. We can go ahead and copy these two improved, I hope, lines down, and just remember that that's being applied to border 2. And we are 1 over. Awesome. So come back into Fireworks and Bree. We've got a second border, and I'm already regretting not having a helper function. So I'm going to do that. Function, draw border. And what do we need? We need which number? Border index, right? And we can even say border index starts at 1. I'm not a big fan of numbers starting at 1. I like numbers starting at 0. But Lua consistently does 1. Excellent discussion of German going on in the chat there. Thank you. Yeah, that is a thing. As Little Red had pointed out, I wouldn't say I am fluent in either German or Dutch, but every time I learn new things in Dutch, it feels like the next time I see German text, it's slightly more comprehensible. Oh, that word looks familiar. Oh, I think I understand the word order going on. Oh, nouns are have capital letters. Cool. Just little things that that one doesn't cross over, but just little things where the next time I see something in German, it's like, oh, cool. And it, being practically on the German border, it happens occasionally. For all things, just I do the next stream in German, and I don't think that would be a fun experience for anyone. All right, we're going to come in here. We're going to pull out the code for making a border. And instead of just border 2, we're just going to call it border. Awesome. It's going to look like this. We're going to have a... oh, no. Yes, okay. So we're going to go ahead and return wborder. So we'll put the creation in here. It's going to be a local. And we're going to say wborder equals, wborder3 equals draw border. And in fact, that should be create border. I'm already regretting my naming choices. Create. And we're going to pass in 3. And here, we're going to use border index -1. Because all of our math is based on zeros. This is why so many languages use zero-based numbers. It just makes life easier in so many ways. Oh well. So we have some variables here that are no longer in play. So we can actually bring them on up here. We can set them local to the file if we want to. And then they'll be available while these functions are running. Oh, I see here that they're still being used in our initial function. We'll put these here then. Okay, so what that should give us is a border 3 with much less typing. Let's come back into the game, launch this, and go ahead and select Fireworks and Bree. Awesome, we have a border 3. And the point of all that was now we can also have a border 4 for almost free. Let's go ahead and undo that, load it back in. Now, the fun thing is there's no error checking here, of course. So if I asked for a border 5, I will get one up until that border hits the edge of the window, and then it should stop drawing. There we go. So that we can see where that window control ends. I think it's delightful. I also think it's not quite as opaque as I would have expected. Fascinating. But there are draw modes that do better blending of multiple images that are on top of each other so that opacity does come through. I'm just not using them because by default, none of my stuff is supposed to overlap like that. Okay, so what can we also do? We can come back in and replace the code here. So we can say W border 1, W border 2, and 1 and 2. Perfect. So I do this because eventually this is probably going to be a table, and that table is going to have is going to be a global variable. And so for now, we do need these to be global variables, but that's not the end vision I have for this. And then in our highlight allowed in our highlight allowed fireworks function, we're going to go ahead and activate certain borders and turn off other borders. So how are we going to do that? I don't know. Marathon says, I'm so thrilled how you'll solve or create the minstrel buff button /UI. I know, that is a problem with being so busy with language class and everything else is I'm bouncing from topic to topic, and so as long as I'm working on fireworks, I'm not working on something else, and it's But you're absolutely right. A UI that can kind of rescale based on how many things it thinks it should hold is fascinating to me. And I think it's going to be the exact same problem where you have a start, a button, an end, and you can just arbitrarily make it as wide as you want to. Oh, this one's got 17, instead of having a different one for each size. But you could do that too. And same thing for the minstrel buffs. Like you could either have it arbitrarily wide, or we could just have, 3's really common, sometimes 4, never more than 6. So just make the 4 variations and be done with it. Not sure which way I'll go on minstrel buffs. We'll see. I should save that before I close it. All right, so we're so close. We're going to get in a value, and we need to convert that into what we're going to do. And let's see, don't need images. Oh, what is it going to look like? Like optimally, I would have a lookup table, right? Which says, red yes equals, yes, no, no, no. And you could do that certainly with binary. I'm mentally reviewing my options here. So I'm going to take a drink of water, so it doesn't look like I've stalled out. Okay, so the way lets you return multiple values from a function. So a naive implementation, and maybe that's all we need. Return multiple values. Sure. Return that. Okay, it really just is comma separated. So if I had a function that said function get border state of allowed fireworks, then it can really just return true, false, true, false as an example. And then we can go ahead and local red state blue, what even are these? Oh, yeah. Red, green, blue, yellow equals get border state allowed fireworks. And then we can just say w border 1 set visible equal to red. And we can do the same thing. Boy, I really thought that would have a new line attached to it. Okay, there we go. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we've got green, blue, and yellow. So what would that look like? That would look like, we reload this, no syntax errors, awesome. Come on into the options, and I hit blue. And there we go. It has artificially decoded it to the wrong thing, but still. Part of me wonders what happens if you have a background and a back color. Nope, not going to get sidetracked. Okay. So what we want to do is just set up a stupid function. It's fine. We'll come back and maybe make this better. I could see a table lookup being really nice. So if allowed, does Lua have a switch statement? I bet it doesn't. Those sound hard to generate bytecode from. Lua switch statement. Yeah. They're suggesting using a table. I don't blame them. Okay, so what we're looking at is something like this. If it's red, yes, then we're returning true, false, false, false. And then we can do else if it's red, no, then return false, true, true, true. Right, and then same thing, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's actually be a little cautious on our copy pasting. So if it's a green yes, then it's going to be very similar. It's going to be true, false, no, false, true, false, false. And if it's green, no. Then it's going to be return true, false, false, false. Okay. So, basic idea. Let's copy and paste for the last two and get it done and make it prettier later. So, blue yes, blue no, yellow yes, yellow no. And then same thing. Instead of return true, false, okay, we're going to pop that false, true, false. And then true, true, false, true, and then finally false, false, true, and then false. All right, let's take that on over. And we have a bunch of that. And worst case, return false, 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 and false. Okay, so that's the not very pretty way of doing that. A table lookup sounds better, it really does. But now we can see red, awesome, green, blue, yellow, and not red, not green, not blue, not yellow. Oh, that's so good. Now, let's go ahead and come back in and make sure that these controls start off not visible. Set visible equal to false. And that means we can come back in, unload, reload, and same thing. When we pretend as if we have seen the relevant text, I actually saw it, but I hadn't selected the quest. But because it's a debug, it bypassed the fact that we normally are not seeing. Okay, so red, green, blue, yellow. Oh, it's so pleasing. So I'm going to have a much better time next year during Fireworks in Bree, where the thing just highlights like any of these. It's fine. It's fine. Just do it. That's going to be lovely. Oh my goodness. So, some things we don't have yet. There's a non-zero number of them. Actually, before I talk about what we don't have, let's talk about what we do have. I added a README file and a to-do file. Let's pop those back open. So README, I haven't actually been keeping up with what we did today. So let's come back into all of the commits and, all right, change the alert timeout from 6 to 18 seconds. Change alert timeout from 6 to 18 seconds. All right, VS Code files, don't care about that. Added initial Fireworks UI. And added debug capability for Fireworks. Awesome. To do, what did we want to do? We wanted to make a new window. Done. Make the background the hollow event skills UI. We did that. We have a background. Remember, say no to mouse interaction. Did that. Make use of drag bar. Haven't done that yet. That was what I was thinking. Make borders possible for each of the 4 fireworks. Done. Make window go away if quest drop-down changes. So work in progress. And make the fireworks highlight go away after 18 seconds. No. Okay, but most importantly, this thing does not move. I cannot drag this around. And that sounds like a good idea to be able to drag it around because you would want to be able to drag it on top of the existing bar instead of dragging the existing bar underneath here. Okay, actually, that is the thing that occurs to me is we're going to want to make sure this is on top of anything else, and that means a Z order change, and we can do that real fast. So we want to do a W quick slot set Z order. We want to make sure it's bigger than 0, which is the default for LOTRO UI elements, I believe. And so a 1 will make sure that ours will be on top instead of underneath. Okay. So let's come in and commit some changes. We've got a skill border, awesome. Some README items, some to-do items. Okay. Oh, that reminds me. We were going to move this stuff lower in the file. That's why I like reviewing these things as we're making changes. So I was going to go ahead and move that right before the function that uses it. Okay. We have added border controls and logic. Fly flew by. Okay, so we have the borders, we have logic, awesome. We have the border image, great. Lovely. Okay, so that is the big thing that I'm concerned about is we need this thing to be able to move, and importantly, we need its setting to be saved when we unload the plugin, and then when we load it back in, we need that to be loaded. The plugin already must have some sort of settings. If I come over here, put Festival Buddy all the way to the right, unload it, and reload it, A, the window is still visible, and B, it's all the way over to the right. We know it's using settings of some sort. So we just have to link into that system. Link into settings to save new window position. Awesome. We need to make use of drag bars so we can drag it around also. We need to make the window go away. We saw that if we change this drop down here, it does go away. But if we change the type of festival drop down, it does not go away. And so we're going to want to dig into that. There's probably just it cycles through all the windows it knows about, and it doesn't know about this one yet. And finally, the highlight, when we press this, whoa, that's cool. When we press this button, ideally, we would have some on-screen indication of the 18-second availability. Technically 20 seconds, but the fireworks emote itself takes 2 seconds to go. And so there's 18-second window for us to activate fireworks. And this is important because you can get 2 fireworks launched in a single call if you know what it is and are careful. But that means you're probably only getting 1 in the next because there is a cooldown for the fireworks skill. So I would like an on-screen. I don't know if that's going to be a radial cooldown kind of thing, or if that is going to be maybe the border. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like yet. But I do know I want it because I like timers. I like on-screen timers showing me how much time is left for whatever. I still need to get back and work on a Guardian plugin for when I'm playing with a Guardian. That's another thing. Okay. So those are my big 3 things. I think we can knock them all out next time, and then I think this will we'll put out a patch that includes this, and then I can just be surprised 11 months from now when I'm like, oh look at what it does. That's great, like that. And then we'll get back onto whatever I was working on before the anniversary distracted me. Carl then says, Guardian plugin, give me more. All right, so as you may well know, Guardians proc basically 3 tiers off of their block and a tier or 2 off of their plugin, and that can kind of change versus what stance they're in. And there is a UI built in the game that says, oh, these skills are available. And the order in which those skills appear frustrates me because it seems both not to be consistent and not in the order that I want it to be. And so what I want is to monitor the state of the Guardians' block and parry responses so that it shows, A, how long do you have left on the current block response? Because it's like 6 seconds, right? You open up a 6-second block response. I want to see how much time I have to use on those first tier block or parry responses. And there's a different cooldown for each. And so sometimes you'll be like, I used a block response or I used a parry response, and then you'll immediately trigger another one, right? And so I want more UI feedback of that. So I'm not like, oh, I can still do this thing? Cool. And same thing with the tier 2, tier 3. I want to have, oh, I triggered a tier 2. I want a separate on-screen timer that shows me how long I have for these tier 2s, and I want them to be visually distinct. Like I want a little row of the tier 1s and a little row of the tier 2s and a little row of the tier 3s, and I want it to be really obvious that you've unlocked bigger and better stuff instead of all in one row, all jumbled together. So that's my wish list. I think it is technically feasible. I did some testing on what things you can see for what, and it's a mishmash, so you can't use the same technique to tell each one of the skills is available, but I think it is possible to tell, at least for a blue blind Guardian, which is the only thing I care about. I think it was possible to tell that for each of the tiers, for both block and parry, that such a thing is available. And so that's where my head is at for, in case I need something more to do with my life. But for now, I think one more week we'll do it on this fireworks thing. And okay, I'm going to take a glass of water, check if there's anything more in chat. And now's kind of the last call for chat items, and then we'll save the rest of it for next week. Now, I'm generally the only person on Tuesday, but there is a casual stroll through, I'm going to say Breeland, that Scenario is doing tomorrow at unknown o'clock. Check social media. Or maybe Little Redhead will have that at hand. So, I think that is Scenario's last stroll through Eriador before all of the extant regions in Eriador have been strolled through. Don't know if that counts Dunland. We'll see. And then I guess Scenario will have to start on Rovanian, maybe Gondor, but I would assume Rovanian is next. Fairthen says, thinking about Minster buffs, I would like to see it for the Rune Keeper too. I could appreciate that, but I have played a Rune Keeper so little, I would not be a good person to sink my teeth into that. If I'm not playing a Minstrel, I'm playing a Guardian, and so it's much more it's much more in front of me, where I would actually use it and see problems with it and see how can I make this better and think of things like that. Whereas a Rune Keeper, even if I was able to write it, it would be one of those, well, I've written it and it's out the door and I will never look at this again. And that's not a good place for that, right? You want your plugin author, whoever takes on that challenge, to be a little invested in the thing, I think. Which is why for some of these plugins where I have released patches on plugins that are a decade old and haven't seen any love since then, it's like, well, I could maybe take it over, but I don't want the responsibility of that. 2 p.m. Eastern is when Scenario is doing their stream. Oftentimes, they will do it on Tuesday because that is when their work schedule permits, which is a little sad for me because then I have to shift before or after. But I guess it's Wednesday this week. Awesome. Fairland says that I have to learn it. I don't know if you're talking about learning to do plugins or learning to play RuneKeeper without it, but either way, there's a challenge ahead of you. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. You have to learn how to do plugins. Nice. Well, you've come to the right spot then. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. I think that's it. Let me check my little G-list. Nope. Nothing more. All right. That is all we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. Even if it's a plugin covering an event that won't come around for almost a year. I do hope to see you next week. And until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.